All right, welcome back to part two of the Commander Deck Showcase for Animar. I think we left off talking about counter spells, so we're going to dig into some of the other creatures that we use Animar's ability to cast. So we've got Savage Board Hydra, and it's important to note that the X cost is basically Animar's ability will contribute to that. So if there's 10 counters on Animar, you get a free 10 in the X cost, which is amazing. So this can be, a really fast way to get out a large creature in a few turns. Terror of the Peaks, basically once you play this, any other creature that comes out, you can basically use the power of that creature to deal direct damage, which is pretty neat, especially if you bring out something like an Eldrazi, which we'll talk about in a second. Vault-Born Tyrant is another card where, it seems like it has a big casting cost, but we're casting this for 2 green usually. Helps with the card draw, and yeah, it's got some additional abilities to kind of like come back into the battlefield. Bloom Tender is a card that's really cool for this deck because because Animar is green, red, and blue. You basically get a green, red, and a blue when you tap this, which is just great mana value for casting cost. This Hydra basically allows you to draw cards and gain half the life of, draw half the cards and gain half the life of whatever the X cost is, plus you get the value for using Animar's ability for X to get a big Hydra with flying and trample. We got Allosaurus Shepherd. This is like some early game stuff where you want to prevent your green spells from being countered, and plus, it's just good to have some small creatures with small casting costs to get Animar built up in the early phases. There's another example of that with Birds of Paradise and with Needlethorn Drake. This creature doubles damage. This creature doubles damage. This creature gives all your other attacking creatures trample and indestructible, so this is a good way to get trample onto Animar and get that commander damage through. Same thing with this. This basically helps get Animar trample, and also anything that is a big creature spell, you get another additional 2 colorless less to cast. This gives anything that has a +1/+1 counter on it trample, so another way to get trample onto Animar. And then we've got our Eldrazi. These were previously kind of win conditions for this deck, but it's kind of more become Animar just because of all the doubling effects that we took a look at. So he just gets really big really quickly. But basically, when Ulamog comes in, you can destroy a target permanent and has Annihilator 4, so whenever it attacks, somebody has to just sacrifice 4 permanents. And then Kozilek, you draw 4 cards when it comes into play, and also has Annihilator 4. We've got some cards to get things back out of the graveyard. So we've got Eternal Witness, that when it comes into play, you bring a card back to your hand. Recollect, which you just grab a card. And then my personal favorite, Regrowth for 2. This is usually used to fetch a spell like a counterspell or a doubling effect for Animar, or some, a creature that, like Varel, if I was using Varel to double each turn, I'd want to bring him back into play if he was removed. Speaking of removal, we've got Aetherize, Cyclonic Rift, Heroic Intervention. Well, these are removal, just as kind of board wipe answers. And then this one I really like a lot. I feel like this is a very underrated card. This allows me to basically protect my board if someone tries to board wipe me, because I can phase all my creatures out, or I can phase out all their creatures and, make a big attack, and it could be a game-ending card. Heroic Intervention just gives everything hexproof and indestructible until end of turn on your side. Occasionally this can help with a board wipe, but sometimes if there's not, if it's, like Cyclonic Rift doesn't actually target, that's not really going to help you. So sometimes Heroic Intervention is helpful, and other times it's you're just using it to protect a single target. Okay, so I think that's all the spells. I don't think I missed anything, so let's talk about mana base. And we're at 4 minutes right now. I feel like I had to have missed something. I think we did everything though. Anyway, all right, so let's talk mana base, and I'm going to try to make this quick. So Animar doesn't need a lot of land compared to other decks. Most decks I usually do 40 or more lands, especially for landfall style decks. But this has, I think, 33. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 islands here, and we've got some beta islands, which are pretty cool. And some oil slick from All Will Be One. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 forests and a Boseiju who endures that can be used to destroy a target artifact or enchantment or non-basic land, which is pretty sick, but I kind of count it as a forest. So you see I've got a lot of forests, and the reason for that is there's a lot of spells that have 2 green in the casting cost, so it's just good to have those. I was really surprised to learn I only have 3 mountains, which is kind of crazy. But part of the reason of that is that I have a lot of dual land answers here. So when we look at red and green, we've got basically I'm trying to only have, you know, these styles of dual lands where they don't come into play tapped, or you have a way to prevent them from coming into play tapped. So this one says you can only use the opposite color if you control a mountain or a forest. This one says, you know, it comes into the battlefield if you control a mountain or a forest. This one allows you to make your opponent gain a life if you use the color. We got a nice minty taiga here, and I do use real dual lands in my deck because I'm an old man and stuck in my ways. And then we got a nice expedition foil fetch land here for Wooded Foothills. And then for red, we've got some filter land action going on here. We got steam vents, sulfur falls, training center. So this is kind of cool if you have, if you're playing in a 4 of, this automatically comes in untapped. I like these ones too, where it's like 2 or fewer lands. We got a volcanic island, also in pretty decent shape, and a scalding tarn expedition fetch land. And then finally we got another one of these lands where I think, what do they call the battle bond lands? I think they were called, where if you have 2 or more opponents, it doesn't come in tapped. Hinterland Harbor, another filter land, which I really like a lot. A pretty trashed tropical island. This one's in really rough shape. And then a misty rainforest. So lastly, we got a command tower, because how do you not have a command tower? So yeah, so that's the whole deck. Yeah, like I said, this was kind of homegrown, and every time, you know, every few sets that come out, I try to revamp it and add cards to it. I'm really happy with the Final Fantasy cards that I've added. I'm really happy with Terra Symbiosis and Ouroboros and Starwinder getting added to the deck. I did a couple of games with it this weekend, and it did really well. So yeah, so I'd love to hear people's comments. I don't claim to be any kind of expert deck builder. This was just kind of just came together organically, and it's had, you know, quite a bit of play testing. But because I'm changing it all the time, you know, there might be some additional efficiencies to add to it. So let me know what you think, and let me know if you have any tips or tricks to add to this deck, you know, that synergize with this strategy. I'd love to hear it, and appreciate you watching. We'll see you on the next one.